Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Bizzy. I hope you enjoyed today's story. And if you do, please subscribe. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Bizzy. It is episode 555.
Wow.
Can you believe that, Kendall?
That's crazy. That's an angel number. And we got to look it up when we finish.
We have to look it up. And you guys, I'm so excited to have Kendall Lashay Williams on the show today. She is the host of Mom's True Tea.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I found Kendall on Instagram. You guys know I'm not like a big social media person. I try to stay away from it as much as I can just because for me, I just get sucked down that rabbit hole and I hate it. And I miss real life. But when I heard you spoke to me. I love it that you take your finger and you're like, come here, come on in. It's so cute.
Bring it on in.
Bring it on in.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to her, of course, and said, will you come on my show? And she said yes. And I am so grateful that she said yes. She is fierce and fabulous.
Thank you.
And we talked on the phone, which I love that she called me after I asked her to come on. And she called me and made a great talk. And she grew up literally probably like 15 miles from where I live in Fort Lauderdale. Because I'm in Delray. I think it's only like 15 miles, right?
Yeah, it's like an hour drive, I think.
Yeah,
maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah, It's not far at all. And now you live outside of Atlanta.
I do. I live in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia.
And so first off, I want to know why you started Mom's True Tea.
Ooh, well, first of all, I have been dealing with emotional and verbal abuse from my younger son, who I'm estranged from by choice. And I've been dealing with that for 20 years now, since his father and I divorced. And it has been a long road and a long journey. I've always been very forthcoming about my experience and my journey as a mom and dealing with the behavioral things that I was dealing with him, the emotional abuse, the verbal abuse. But in 2019, Elizabeth, I had this in my phone, but I didn't think other moms were ready to have this conversation. So I never pushed the button. I didn't know where to start. Then I got diagnosed with cervical cancer in 2022 and have been going through so much still with that same son. And my husband went and bought me a microphone, headphones, and the XLR, and he said, it's time for you to tell your story. I never wanted to be front facing. I never wanted to be in front of the camera. I never wanted to be a content creator. I just wanted to do my podcast behind the microphone, hiding, and the Most High said otherwise. I paid somebody an astronomical amount of money that was doing marketing and said they were going to do all of these things for me and grow and my page and this, that. And they were doing my content in a way that wasn't authentic to who I am or authentic to what I wanted to convey to moms. And once I finished that contract and felt like I wasted money at the time, I took over and started doing my content myself, just showing up as Kendall. I'm the same person on and off these apps. And I cannot believe that it exploded the way that it did. But I did this because I know I didn't have much support when I was going through all of this with my son. I knew even in my circle of friends, because they didn't either have children or they had very small children or were just becoming moms, they couldn't relate to what I was experiencing as a teen, having a teenage children. And it was lonely. It was very lonely. So I just started getting on here, recording things that would come to my mind that would be dropped in by spirit. And then it just took off from there. And here you are coming to me because you've seen some of the messages that I posted. And I have thousands of moms around the world. And it's just absolutely mind-blowing, and it's humbling that I'm finally being able to set some of them free to be able to no longer suffer in silence. So that's why I started Mom's True Tea, to serve as that voice for women who don't have a voice or are afraid to speak up because they're afraid of being judged. And me personally, I don't give a damn anymore.
I totally agree, sister. I am in the same exact place. And I have to tell you, it's so interesting. A dear friend of mine called me this morning and she said, Did you see the article in the Wall Street Journal from May 15th? And I said, no, I didn't. But there's a huge article. I am not a subscriber for the Wall Street Journal, so I didn't get to read the whole article. But it's
Mm-hmm.
all about estrangement. Front
Wow.
page on the Wall Street Journal on the
Really?
front page of maybe the style section, whatever section it was in, but it was all about estrangement. And I have to tell you, when my oldest stopped talking to me,
Mm-hmm.
it broke my heart. I mean,
Yeah.
broke my heart. And it happened in like one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the problem is a lot of moms, like, let's be honest, some of them do know why. Some of it is politically related. Some of them know why, right? I would be remiss and let you play in my face if I wasn't realistic to know that some of us do know why the children have gone no contact. But the majority of moms that are dealing with estrangement, and dads too, because quiet as it's kept, I have some silent dads that follow my page and may send me a message or comment here and there, far and few between, but they're there as well. They're dealing with this estrangement and they have no idea why, Elizabeth. Their children just stopped talking to them. They didn't give them a reason. I even had a mom tell me that she was asking her daughter, tell me why. I don't know what to repent for or ask for forgiveness for if you don't tell me what I have done. And her daughter blatantly said, I will never give you the answers that you're looking for.
I mean, talk about
This is a
torture.
this is an epidemic. And I don't
It
care
is.
what anybody says. It's a trend. Social media is pushing it with propaganda. Peers are pushing this, but a lot of it is therapists as well that are pushing this agenda.
Oh, I agree with you 110%. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so funny because I mentioned this. I had my husband on just recently, and a
Mm-hmm.
therapist wrote to me on my page and was like, "Well, I disagree with you." And I was like, "Well, I can tell you that I had never heard the word gaslighting." I'm doing air quotes if you
Mm-hmm.
guys are listening to this instead of watching it on YouTube. But literally, he's like, "You're gaslighting me," and I'm like, "What does that mean? I don't even
Right.
know what gaslighting meant."
Half of them don't even know what it means, to be completely honest. And gaslighting is when someone makes you feel crazy for responding to them in a certain way. But when you look at the definition, and I'm just giving the short version of it, who's really the gaslighter? Because they're making you upset or accusing you of something, and then when you respond, they now say, oh, you're gaslighting me, when they're the ones that have initially been the gaslighter in the first place. There's so many words that are swirling around in this echo chamber of pop culture and pop therapy. Words like narcissist. Every mom is a narcissist. Every mom is a narc. That's the short term for narcissist, depending on the age group. Every mom is a gaslighter. Every mom has now caused their child trauma. Every mom has been toxic. Oh, I was abused. And then you ask how they were abused, and they give you the most ridiculous reasons, if they give you any reasons at all. Then they're saying moms are emotionally immature. The problem that I have is this agenda seems to be targeted towards moms. And I believe that it is rooted in misogyny as well. And our children, our adult children, millennials and below, they don't recognize this from a spiritual perspective either. There's a bigger agenda that they're just not woke enough to understand that. And that's the sad part. So they're going with this narrative, and now everybody's trauma bonding on social media, even when there are no true reasons as to why some of these children have gone no contact, is what they call it, over estrangement with their parents. And you're never going to make me believe that all these moms are bad moms.
No, I wanted to. Can you imagine if these kids had our moms as their
Oh,
moms?
girl, they could never make it. They could
They'd
never
be
make
dead.
it. They be dead. They could never make it. And that's what we say too. But then when you tell them, they say, oh, you're not a victim. Oh, well, you're not gonna pass that trauma. Oh, or they say things like, well, we're breaking generational curses and we're breaking those generational cycles. Just because you all put up with it doesn't mean that we have to put up with it. That's not what our expectation is. But our expectation is for you to have a little empathy and a little grace, a little bit of grace. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's lacking in a lot of the adult children, hence why they are so easy. They're cutting their parents off the same way they ghost friends, Or they'll stay in these bad relationships with boyfriends, husbands, or partners, or they'll stay in these toxic relationships with their friends, but they will cut their moms off because you know why? They know the moms are going to always be there no matter what. And I literally said the other day, what happens when moms get fed up and they decide to close that door to you?
And that's what you did.
Yes, I did. two
What did
years ago.
2 years ago? Wait, so he's your youngest. How many kids do you have?
I have two sons, 29 and 34.
And the 29-year-old's the one.
He's always been the one that gave me problems. Always, from the moment his father and I divorced.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
Yeah.
just normal talking back and that sort of thing.
Beyond talking back, it wasn't so much the talking back. It would be angry blurts like calling me a whore or F you or calling me a bitch, saying all type of things. He created this narrative that my now amazing husband, who I've been with for the last 18 years, we cheated while his dad was at work, and his dad and I were divorced. And we have proven it time and time again to him that that timeline that he's making up in his mind, still 20 years later, is not the accurate timeline. And I don't know if his dad has confirmed that, but that's a whole nother story because he created a lot of parental alienation as it relates to my relationship with my son as well. He would call him, agitate him, get him all worked up, and then who would have to deal with him? My older son and I would have to deal with them. Who would be getting the calls from schools because he's misbehaving? I would have to deal with that. I have dealt with his behavior, agitation, for 20 years. Do you know how that impacts your nervous system and your mental well-being to constantly be dealing with a child that is troubled? So it wasn't just a talking back. It was verbal, really nasty things. It was threats to my home, threats to my husband. He ran into our garage one night when he had been drinking. He shouldn't have been drinking and driving in the first place. And he literally ran into our garage at 2:30 in the morning and hit my nice truck and damaged our garage at our beautiful home. So yeah, we've been through so many things. I don't even think you and I have enough time to cover it. But in 2023, after, like I said, I had been diagnosed with cervical cancer, I had been by his side every single day almost, even when I was going having surgical procedures because he got into a really bad accident in 2022 that caused him severe injuries. And I was there at that hospital almost every day. And my son told me, you were only there praying that I would die so you could collect the insurance check. And some other things transpired. And in 2023, he made his final threat to where he would do something to my husband and my home. And that was it for me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How
And
far away does
again,
he live from you?
he had moved back to Florida. I don't know where he is. I just heard yesterday from my grandson because he has a child. He's 8 years old. He's an amazing kid. He was with us the last 2 days. And his mom said, I heard that he's back here in Atlanta. And I said, as long as he stays away from me, it does not matter because that's where I am. And it's hard. Estrangement, whether you choose it or whether it's forced upon you. Estrangement from your child is a very heartbreaking thing. But every time I second guess this decision, something comes up, whether it be a text message that he's texted me from an unknown number because I have blocked him on numbers that I'm aware of, or an email that he sends to me and I happen to find it when I'm scrolling looking for some other email. And it always confirms why I chose to be no contact with him because he's still very toxic and he still tries to cause trauma. And as someone who's only 6 months in cancer remission, I refuse to allow anyone to control my life to that degree. And that's what happens. Our children control our lives. And then we have children that are giving us contention and that are so difficult. And you have other children who don't. We lose focus of those who don't because we're so drilled in and focused on the ones that do.
Isn't it so freeing when you just say, let go? You just let
Yes.
go. And you're like, you do you, boo.
Yeah. Yeah. I sleep very well. I don't lose any sleep. I have more peace now that I'm not in contact with him than I do. The minute I see someone call me from an unknown number, or I've been on Facebook Lives, and then all of a sudden some message will pop up from him, and it's always this sense of urgency to get my attention. And it immediately makes me very anxious. My stomach, my head, I literally feel like I'm going to vomit because that's how much he impacts my nervous system.
Does he talk to his brother?
They have a relationship. He talks to him when he wants something. And my older son, he's absolutely amazing. He's not perfect either. None of us are, but he's a performer. He sings all around the world. He sings back for backup artists. He writes. He's the producer as well. They talk when he wants something, and then when he doesn't get his way, he's very combative and very disrespectful to his brother as well. But I try not to get into the middle of their relationship. I try to stay very clear. I'm just clear with my older son on my boundaries. So I'm very clear. You could have the relationship that you choose to have with your brother. I would never get involved or try to bring any, contention between the two of you. But I choose not to. So you have to respect where I am with that. And he always says, Mom, I totally understand.
Aren't setting boundaries so hard? People don't like it when you set a boundary.
No, they don't, especially when you're a people pleaser. People hate boundaries when you're continuously giving them your yes. You can give 1,000 yeses, and the minute you give one no, you become the problem. And people don't like boundaries. And I think there's a difference between boundaries and walls, right?
Yeah.
Our children, the estranged children that have estranged themselves from their parents, they're putting up walls. We're setting boundaries on what we won't tolerate anymore, or we won't be people pleasers anymore, because I think there's a difference between being kind and being nice. I'm no longer nice, but I'm very kind. I'm very kind, but I have to set boundaries. I even have to set boundaries with some of the moms that, are on my platform, because they look at me like I'm free therapy. So they come in my inbox, they come in my DMs, and they unload all of these things. And I have learned that I even have to set boundaries with them. If you want to have this long conversation, instead of sending it and just dumping it on me energetically, book a session with me and let's have a conversation, you know?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So, what has been the most liberating part of you sharing your story?
Oh, just the freedom of not caring even more. Again, you say you don't care about being judged, but for years I was like, I know people are judging me. I know people don't understand how I'm feeling or why I'm saying that. Because years ago, I wish I would have gone no contact with my son years ago, to be completely honest. It would have saved me a lot of stress. It wouldn't have impacted my health the way that I think that it did. Um, and people would laugh, but I don't think they really understood. Or they would say things like, well, have you tried therapy? Did it? Have you guys tried family counseling? Did it? Like all the things that they put back on moms, like, did you do your best? Like, and I did. And I had to stop questioning myself. So the most freeing thing for me, Elizabeth, was to no longer say, where did I go wrong? Because I think a lot of moms, that's the first thing we do. We blame ourselves when there's any type of contention in the relationship with our children, because it's not the expectation. And then immediately society tells you, when you do have contention, or when there is any type of rift in your relationship with your child, it can't possibly be that child. It has to be you. So I set myself free when I stopped asking myself, where did I go wrong?
And I think it's cutting out certain friends as well who
Oh,
don't support you.
absolutely. Absolutely. You have to. You definitely have to. But do know this, even some of your girlfriends, even though they're not talking about it and they may be acting like their relationships are perfect with their kids, they won't ever tell you that they're dealing with it. But I have had friends that are now dealing with adult children, and they are dealing with the disrespect, the contention, and the I just want to wring their neck thing that I was dealing with years ago. So it's funny to see it play out, because you just have to be careful. You should not judge a mom at all, because our mother our our motherhood journeys, they're not linear. And it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, it does not matter. They're not linear. There's no mother that's better than another mother just because it appears that way. And sometimes people are going through things, and because they have ego, they don't want to tell you that they're dealing with the same shit you're dealing with their kid.
No, it's shame. They're all
Mm-hmm.
shamed. And
Yeah.
I think, and it's so, for me, I like coming out here and talking about mine. I mean, my son then was like, "Oh my gosh, mom, stop talking about it on your podcast." I'm like, "You don't have to listen to my podcast."
Yeah, don't listen. This is me expressing myself so I can free myself. And let me tell you something. Shame loves silence. So when we continue to be silent, it is literally killing us physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's not healthy. Like I still spare all the things about my son. Like I said, I'm giving you the cliff notes. There's so much more, so much more. And then people say, "Well, I want to hear his side." You can talk to him. If you can find him, have a conversation with him. I have no problem with that. I have nothing to hide.
But you know what's missing so much in our world today is respect. That
Respect and
little
empathy.
or yes, respect and empathy. For
Mm-hmm.
one, I mean, how many hours there was like a joke back in the day. I remember when we were younger and I was a stay-at-home mom when my kids were young, and the amount
Mm-hmm.
of money you would get paid to be a mom, nobody could afford us
Mm-hmm. At all.
at all.
At
No,
all.
no,
No.
no.
The
They don't like,
loud
oh, we'll
things
make
that we do, the things that you see us do, but what about the silent servitude that we do as moms? It's
it's
not quantifiable.
no. There's no, and it's forever in your whole entire life. You
Your
have
entire life.
your entire life. So when they act like this,
Mm-hmm.
when did you find the peace? Because I know for me, for a
Mm-hmm.
long time I didn't sleep. I mean, I would wake my husband
Yeah.
up in the middle of the night, and this is my second husband, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
wake him up and I'd be like, "Oh my gosh." And he'd be like, "It's okay. It's okay." He'd give me a hug. But when does the peace come?
It takes time. And there's still moments, Elizabeth, that I get emotional. I literally, like I said, I got emotional, I think, was it last week? On one day, I can't remember. And I was like, I miss him. I miss the fun parts of him. I miss those good moments. He's highly intelligent. He was an amazing soccer player, an amazing basketball player. I think he got around the wrong kids and started to try to want to fit in with them instead of being the suburban kid that he grew up on a cul-de-sac in a 4,000 square feet home with two parents, whether it was a stepdad or whatever. We're professionals, we're entrepreneurs, we don't smoke, we don't drink. Like he had the representatives in the home with him, but he chose to go a different direction. That didn't appeal to him at all. So when I stopped is the moment I decided on that day, September 2023. I slept very well because I had been dealing with it for so long. For so long. When I made that conscious decision in September of 2023, which was the last straw for me, I slept well for the first time. I don't sleep when he reaches out to me.
I'm sure.
But my situation is different. You, on the other hand, if you've been estranged and you don't know why, or you don't have that closure or those answers, you're going to navigate it a little bit differently. It's still emotional for me at times, but then there's always something that spirit shows me that brings it back to my attention that this is the reason why you chose to set these hard boundaries for yourself, even though that's your child.
Oh, it is. I mean, I just slept really well. I just went and I saw my son at my daughter's graduation from law school. And it was so nice because instead of reacting and
Mm-hmm.
letting it take control of any part of my life,
Yep.
anytime I felt an emotion, I would get my husband. I get along with my ex-husband as well. So I would
Mm-hmm.
go and say, let's go take a walk. We'd go
Good.
take a walk
Yeah.
and we'd walk away and then we'd come back. And then if
Yeah.
I felt weird again, I'd get up and I'd walk away.
Do it again. Yeah.
Yep.
You have to. There's different things that I tell moms when I see moms say things like, I can't get out of the bed. The other day, a mom DM'd me and she was like, I'm going to go to the ER because I've been so sick about this because I can't remember. She said her daughter got married or her daughter had a baby and she doesn't even know what the baby is from, if it's a girl or a boy. And I've just been so sick. I've been in the bed. I'm about to go to ER. I don't understand that. And it's not that I don't have empathy for it or compassion for it, but what I told her, I said, get up, put some music on, dance around, find something that you love to do. Go take a bath. You know what I'm saying? Go take a bubble bath. Drink you some wine while you're sitting in the tub. Do something that's going to bring you some type of joy. Because I have a hard time believing, although I know that for most moms, their children are their lives. And we can talk about that too, because that's why I wrote the book, Reclaiming Your Identity, because we have wrapped our entire identity and our value up into connection with our children, and it's codependency to a certain degree. And therefore, when they decide they don't want to talk to you anymore for whatever reason, it is so devastating for moms that moms are talking about taking their lives. They don't want to be here anymore. And I want moms to know that your value shouldn't be solely tied up into motherhood where you don't think it's worth living because this person has selfishly, again, in most cases, decided they no longer want to be in contact with you or you don't have access to your grandchildren.
What do you think happened, transpired? I don't know if it's with the media, if it's with
Mm-hmm.
social media. When
Mm-hmm.
we were kids, like we listened to our grandparents.
Yeah.
You always called adults by Mr. and Mrs. You
Yep.
always were respectful to everybody. If your
Yep.
mom said, get over here, as much as you didn't want to, you had to get over
You
there.
did it.
And
Mm-hmm.
if they beat you with the belt, well, who cares? I mean,
Yeah.
I remember my son. I mean, he's severe ADHD. I love him
Mm-hmm.
to death. He went to college. I never medicated him, but it was hard. It wasn't easy, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
not easy. And he'd be like, I'm going to call the police because you just spanked me or did something. And I'd say, well, do you want to call? I'll give you the number. Let me call for you. Cause I said,
Exactly.
guess who's getting taken out of this house? Not me.
Yep.
You,
Yep. You.
you,
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. Yeah. Good
But
for
I don't
you.
know, and I don't know since when do parents have to become punching bags. And
So, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, I was just going to say the punching bag thing and this thing that we all think that if our kids, and is it because we want to like have this fake picture
Yep.
on social media of look
A
at
lot
us,
of it.
we're happy.
Yeah, a lot of it is the facades. You want that appearance. Not only that, we have to be accountable because of what we endured as Gen X, boomers, whatever your age group. I'm 52, so I'm a Gen X. And I got beat with belts, extension cords, wire hangers, slapped in the mouth, and some other demeaning
My
things
dad
that,
shot me in the butt with a BB gun. Okay.
yeah,
I'm
like in
56.
not that it was right because
Oh,
we got abused. When you
right.
think about it and you look at abuse, we are the poster children, air quotes for those of you that are just listening. We are the poster children for abuse. But we have to be accountable because we made a decision that we weren't going to do our children the same way because we felt like we were dealt with so harshly, right? So we decided we were going to be friends with them. We decided that we were going to drink with them and their friends to look like the fun
Not
moms
me.
and dads.
Not me.
Not me either, girl. Not me. We decided that we were going to do all the things to try to be their best friends, let them express their emotions, which I feel is okay, but there's a way that you express them. You cannot express your emotions to me in a disrespectful manner. Or if you feel like you're going to swear because you're just so upset, make it clear, Mom, this has nothing to do with you. I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it this way. You know what I'm saying? And then there's a mutual understanding. But because we decided that we were going to be best friends with our kids and we weren't going to parent them in the way that they parented, we're part of the problem. That's number one. And then, like your son said, he was going to call the police on you, depending on his age. The government got involved. And then they changed in schools. You can't chastise them in the school. Hence why these teachers are quitting in droves because think about it. The children that came before, after our millennial kids, and now after the Gen Z, they're worse than the other ones. So nobody's afraid of any hierarchy. There's no more hierarchy, and that is the problem. And we just let them say whatever, we let them do whatever because we don't want to make them mad. So children are becoming the parents, and we're becoming the children because we're allowing them to dictate how we navigate with them just because we want to be in proximity with them. I'm not that mom, though.
No.
Yeah,
I'm going
I'm
to tell
not
you
that
this.
girl.
So I got sober in 2006. My son was born in
Congratulations.
1996. So he was 10 when
Okay.
I got sober. My
Okay.
daughter was 9 and my younger one was 6, 7.
Okay.
And I will tell you this. I always told my kids, I'm not your friend. I'm your
Yeah.
mom. You only have one
Mm-hmm.
mom, and that's me. And if
Yeah.
you don't like it, and I remember middle school's a hard place, right? Middle school is when you come together with other kids that you might
Mm-hmm.
not know, and they
Yeah.
live in different neighborhoods now. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember my son started to hang out with this crew that was not,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in the other room. I could hear them. I live in the house I raised them in was very small. I love it. It's my
Mm-hmm.
little teeny house. And
Mm-hmm.
I looked at my son and I heard them talking about egging and getting in trouble with the police. And I said, "Excuse me,
Mm.
we're going to go get into we're going to go to my office, which was my car, right? Because it's the
Mm-hmm.
only place we have privacy." And I said, "I'm done. We're done with these people." And I went over to the
Yeah.
school and I said to the disciplinarians, "If you see him with these kids, I don't care if you pick him up by the bootstraps and pull him and tell him to go over there."
Yeah.
"Oh, Mrs. Chance, we can't do that." I'm like, "What?"
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. They took discipline out of the schools, girl. They took discipline out of the schools. Then the kids feel like they can call the police anytime they get chastised or get spanked. I had moms say that they were actually physically abused by their child, and their child has called the police, and they ended up going to jail.
I mean, something has to change.
Yeah.
Something has to change
Yeah.
because what's going on and having our friends, I mean, when you were talking about the codependence, I can say that when my youngest went to college, I was, they left. I had been a single
Yeah.
mom for their whole lives, pretty much, and so by the
Yeah.
time they left, it was like, now what? I moved all the way to Florida, right? And I started over. And is it
Mm-hmm.
easy? No, but we
No.
have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We have to start over. They're going to grow up at some point. And that's why I say when you wrap your entire identity up into motherhood and then your children decide to go off and live their own lives, women are not handling that very well. They're not handling when their sons get married. They're not handling when their daughters are getting married. Then the daughter in law becomes the problem, or the son in law becomes the problem. And sometimes they are. We need to acknowledge that because depending on what relationship they have with their parent, or they're just self-centered and they want all of the attention. So yes, it does cause friction in the relationship that you may have had with your son or daughter prior to them getting married. But their spouse also now comes first. And I think some moms don't handle that very well by acknowledging it and accepting that as well. But yeah, there's so many different factors that are currently the problem. And as these generations, as you go through the generations, millennials, we thought we were parenting better. Millennials think they're parenting even better because they're not going to make their kids do chores. They're not going to speak to their kids a certain way. They're definitely not going to spank their kids. They're going to let them have feelings and express themselves. It doesn't matter because that's just their voice. And by them expressing themselves, who knows? They may be a public speaker. If you don't like my kid because they curse, I don't care. I let them curse. Like all of these things are just crazy. And this is where we are as society. And it's only going to get worse. I look at my 8-year-old grandson and I say, I hope your generation is better. Every time. I hope your generation course corrects this. And I hope you're better.
I think it's so interesting that you're saying that because so many kids that I see in restaurants, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, they all are on iPads. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
how do they even know how to talk? When we
Yeah.
when we went to a restaurant and we weren't behaving, what would our
Yeah.
parents say? They would be like, "Excuse me, where do you think you
Mm-hmm.
are, my friend?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't know how to talk, Elizabeth. And it's not just the little kids, it's the adults or the teenagers because they have their phones in their hands. This is why they're going crazy on their parents when they take their phones away or turn the Wi-Fi off in the house. And they don't know how to verbally communicate. They don't know how to verbally communicate because technology is raising them. And it may not be intentional as a parent, but yeah, you're right. You do see most of them with iPads. You see them with phones. And that's so the parent can have them disconnect from them too. We have to acknowledge that or just give them a break. And I get it. I totally understand. But however, it's teaching our children to be very isolated. It's teaching them to be very non-empathetic. It's also teaching them that what they're seeing outside of the iPads and the phones are not reality. That's why you can see someone attacking someone, and instead of someone helping that person, they're videoing it, which is absolutely disgusting.
It's horrible.
They're
And
disconnected from reality.
what about playing outside with your friends? Is there no such thing as that anymore? The
Very
media's made.
rarely. Very rarely. I think when they're much younger, like ironically, you said that my neighbors, I'm upstairs in my office, and my neighbors across the street, I can see them, and their kids are out there sliding on on a little water slide. And I was like, wow,
Yay, bravo to
yeah,
that mom. Bravo. She's a good
kudos,
mom.
kudos. You got them outside slipping and sliding on the water slide like we used to do back in the day on the little slip and slide pads, and you put the water on it and slide through. And they're out there doing that now, and it just gave me joy to see it. But they're so disconnected. Most of them older are so disconnected from reality because of technology. So yes, that's our fault too.
It's so sad. And I think COVID was a huge, huge,
Oh
huge
God,
component
yeah,
of all this. And we
yeah,
lost our ability to realize we are the parent. What we say
mm-hmm,
goes. And if you
yep,
hurt your kids' feelings, who gives a shit? I'm sorry.
right,
Who really
right,
gives a shit? I mean, they're going to get, I mean, if this is the worst thing you have to go through in your life is your mom telling you no, wait till life
right.
hits you.
Yeah. And we have to, like, if we say some really, really harsh things, we do have to acknowledge that. But like you said, if I'm telling you to clean up your room or no, that shouldn't be a meltdown. A woman turned the Wi-Fi off in her house in Texas, and her two teenage children attacked her and her mom with knives because she turned the Wi-Fi off.
Okay, okay, they need to go to jail. Those kids
I
need to go
said
to
the
jail.
same thing. I said the same
Go to
exact thing.
juvie. Yeah.
I said the same exact thing. And that's another thing. Some of us, we don't want to call the police on our kids. We don't want, because it's still our kid. But people are not even talking about the abuse, the physical abuse and matricide that is happening in our society. And it's rarely being talked about.
It is just so crazy. So, what
Yeah.
advice would you give to somebody who wants to be honest but
hmm
fears the judgment from their friends?
I would say find you a support group. If you don't feel safe talking to your friends, or better yet, find you some new friends. Because if you have friends that you can't feel safe to share all of yourself with and not have to worry about them being judgmental or making you feel worse, find you some new friends because they're not your friends. That's number one. But if you can't, find you a support group like Mom's True Tea, like you, Elizabeth. Find you someone that you can talk to because suffering in silence is killing women. It is killing women. And again, it doesn't matter what your ethnicity is or your background. It is killing women to remain in silence. And that's why I believe this platform has opened up so many women to have conversations or drop in the comments or just express themselves, some things that they've never been able to do or they didn't feel safe doing. But you cannot continue to suffer in silence. And if you can't find a support group, if you're not a part of the Mom's True Tea community, you should be. If you're not following Elizabeth, you should be. But write yourself a letter or journal. Start journaling how you're feeling. That way, nobody knows. And keep it in a private space where nobody can have access to it. Journal how you're feeling, but you have got to release these emotions and these feelings no matter what you're dealing with. You cannot contain it because it just becomes a disease within your body.
What do you think of Mel Robbins' book that says "Let Them"?
I like Mel Robbins. I haven't read the book, but I follow Mel Robbins, and I do like her. And she definitely, there's some validity there. You just let them, because you can only control yourself. That's why I tell the grandparents that are so torn, because they're like, but they won't let me see my grandparents, or we won't speak up, or we won't tell them the truth about themselves or about how we're feeling because they're not going to let us see our grandkids. And then I'm like, okay, so you're allowing them to weaponize your grandkids against you. You're allowing them to hold you hostage because you have this tie to your grandchildren. But I have to remind them that those are not your children. Your grandchildren belong to your children. So what they choose to do with them, it's out of your control. So let them, because there's nothing you can do about it. And if you spend your time ruminating over who you do or do not have access to, how are you going to heal? It's just going to keep you in bondage. It's just going to keep you depressed. It's just going to keep you suicidal, because again, the crazy part is some people talk about they don't want to be alive anymore because they can't see their grandchildren or their child is not talking to them. Let them. Let them, in my opinion, is about you have no control over anyone else but yourself. If they don't want to talk to you, let them. If they don't want you to see your grandchildren, let them. If anything in your life is bothering you to that extent, and you know you have absolutely no control of it, yeah, let them. So I'm assuming that's where she's coming from when she's saying that.
Don't you think it's interesting that, but there are other cultures. I know in maybe China, I think for sure China, Vietnam, like
Mhm.
you live generationally in a home, like you move up the ranks with your
Mhm.
family. Like it's the
Mhm.
grandparents, everybody lives together.
Mhm.
And now
Mhm.
we in America, we're going,
We don't do
we don't
that.
even want our parents.
Yeah, we
And
don't do
everything's
that.
so expensive. You would think that you'd want to like be with your family.
Yeah. Yeah, we've grown away from that. And I don't think America has ever really been like that. Other cultures, like you said, yes. Caribbean cultures are like that. You know, some of my roots are Caribbean. And Caribbean cultures are like that. You live with your parents until you can save money to get on your feet, or you live as a family and you save money again so you can move out and get on your feet. And then you continue that cycle over and over and over again. But we have been removed from that. And then, Elizabeth, let me give you some tea. The tea is, girl, I have moms that are in Japan, in China, in Africa, in Australia, UK, Ireland, Belgium, and they're telling me that they are dealing with the same phenomena.
Oh my gosh. Would you say this is dark? There's a
Yes,
darkness in the world right now because
yes,
I know
you can't
I've been
convince me otherwise.
it's what island are you from originally?
I'm not from an island, but some of my roots culturally are like Bahamas in the Caribbean. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that.
Like my father's dad is Bahamian.
Oh, so cool. I
At
love
least
the
I think.
Bahamas.
At least
But
that's what
when
I
we
was
say
told.
where is God? Where has God been for you during this entire journey?
When you and I talked on the phone, I told you I had become more spiritual than I have been religion. I grew up in religion. I grew up in the church. I was in the church every time the doors open with my mom. I become, as I get older and I begin to seek the Most High for myself, I become more spiritual. But God has had me grounded in this entire thing. God has clearly walked beside me to protect me from things seen and unseen. My ancestors walk beside me as I become more spiritual and unpack that. I am the voice of the women who were silenced in my lineage. I am the voice of other women around the world that aren't in my lineage, like you and other moms, to release that truth that has been hidden, or that truth that has not been spoken, so that we all can heal. So God the Most High has been what has grounded me. Because I used to question, why am I going through all of this shit? Like, why do I have to go through so much? Looking at other moms, like you said, looking at other moms around you, thinking that they have this great relationship. Why am I going through this? Like, what am I doing wrong? Knowing that I was a good mom, even though I was a teenage mom at the age of 17 with my older son, but I was a good mom. I wasn't abusive. I supported them in everything they wanted to do. I supported them mentally, spiritually, emotionally, financially. I had them in church. I had them, hey, you discover your own religion, spirituality, whatever. I've always been that mom. But now I recognize that everything that I have endured, even as the young girl who witnessed domestic violence at the age of 5 until I was a teenager in the home with my parents, even the young girl who I felt like my mom, when you look at it, was abusive, even with the mom who, had contention for me, even as an adult, I think because of my independence. There had to be a higher power that was keeping me grounded and that was keeping me sane on in times when I was like, I'm going to lose my mind with this kid. I'm going to lose my mind. And then I started feeling like it wasn't a personal attack for them. It was more of an attack for me to keep me silent.
Mm, mm. Amen to that. What do you want women and mothers to know about reclaiming their identity?
Ooh, girl, I want y'all to figure out who you were before you were a mom. I want you to, if you don't know who that girl was, discover a new version of you. I want you to understand that there is life beyond estrangement. I want you to set boundaries also. And in some cases, I want you to choose distance over being disrespected and protect your peace over having proximity. I want moms to know that you are valuable. You're valuable, not just as a mom, but as you, Elizabeth, as me, Kendall. I want moms to find out what those things were that they may have put to the side and they no longer did because they wrapped everything around their children, and discover that again. You want to go back to school, girl, go back to school. If you want to go to dance class, go back to dance class. If you want to act, go act. Whatever it is that you want to do, that is beyond you just being a mom, and that is beyond you just sitting in this depression, in this sadness. I want moms to be empowered. And that is why I wrote that book, Reclaiming Your Identity. It's a short read, but it is a personal read. It was healing for me. And based on the feedback, it's been very healing for a lot of moms to give them a guide on how they can move forward and also shift their focus in some ways.
What's your favorite mantra?
If you don't appreciate my presence, I can bless you with my absence.
Mm, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, where can everybody follow you and connect with you and support you? I know this. I'm going to have your links on the
Okay.
side. So if you are listening to this today, guys, I will have a link for Kendra's her book, your podcast, and all your social media. How does that
Awesome.
sound?
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And it's the same. It's Mums, Mums, True T. And let me just tell you why I called it that, Elizabeth. Because I did Mums instead of mom, because as in moms the word. Because
Ah,
moms are the ones who act but remain silent. And that's what the term moms the word means.
so
One who
brilliant.
acts but remains silent. And when I thought about that, that is why I named it that instead of mom, MOM. And it's Mom's True Tea. You can find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under the same handle. Again, my book is Reclaiming Your Identity. I'll put it up right here so the readers can see, the viewers can see it. You can find it on Amazon and on my website as well, momstruetea.com. But I'll send all this information over to you also, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
How
I'm grateful.
how has it been for you to have been taken off like this? Like literally, how long ago did you start doing this?
I started the podcast last year. I started the podcast last year, and I'm a project manager by profession in corporate
Yes.
America, which ironically, my corporate role is ending May 31st. And I'm excited because I'm excited about the next door and the next chapter and to really move this forward. I want to travel to go speak at different events. So if you want a speaker, reach out to me. I want to travel more. I want to just really dive deep into this. I offer one-to-one coaching sessions, so that's something that has taken off. But I'm also going to expand that. I've been asked to do a deeper coaching session, so I'll be doing like a 5-week program. I'm starting to build that out right now. You and I talked about possibly a
Yep.
retreat. I have my
Yep.
moms that are begging me to do a retreat, and I'm like, hey, I need a moment. I need to get through corporate America next week, take a week to decompress, maybe go on vacation, and then come back and regroup and really, really get focused on Mom's True Tea even more. I do virtual empower me's for the women who couldn't get to Atlanta. I do those every month. I'm excited. I didn't expect this. I was hopeful and I trusted the Most High would do this, but I did not expect what's happening with this platform now, to the point where someone's like, just know you were the pioneer, because nobody was talking about this, and now they're starting to see other people kind of start shifting a little bit and have these conversations. But yeah, I want to take this as far as it's going to go based on the purpose.
Well, Kendall, I feel so blessed to know you. And we are going to get something together, you guys. I'm hoping in the fall, we're going to hopefully get
Yeah,
something going. And I just want to thank you so much for the courage that you have
yeah,
and the strength you have to be
thank
so
you.
honest and help all of us feel maybe a little less alone, because
Yeah,
it was so hard. It was
yeah,
so hard. Oh
yeah,
my
I'm
gosh.
humbled.
Thank you so much for everything. You guys, please subscribe to my show. Share this with all of your friends. And again, know that you are not alone. Thank
You're
you so
not.
much, Kendall. Mwah. Sending you virtual hugs and kisses.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Elizabeth.
Thank you for saying yes.
Yes, anytime. Anytime, girl. I can't wait to meet you in person. And
Okay.
some more moms, too.
I'm going to go put this. Thanks for listening to Conversations with Bizzy. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, if you could subscribe, that would mean the world to me. And follow me on all social media. And you can also get my newsletter every Friday morning into your inbox. Just go to elizabethchance.com and subscribe. Take care.